Walieula KTN News.
Right, Eric is here with me in studio. I want to get your thoughts on that particular story. Just attacks on journalists. This was during the Azimio protests. The role of journalists usually is to inform the public. But when they're attacked and some of the equipments are taken away from them, it doesn't seem very fair. What do you think?
Yeah, of course. I'm just imagining, just trying to remember when we had a meeting with Belden in one of these stations here, and we were trying to encourage her because she had really suffered the previous day when she was covering the riots in Mathare. But generally, these attacks are not acceptable because if you attack journalists, stop them from doing their work. Because, like I said, journalists are also workers. They eke out a living from working as journalists, and therefore they shouldn't be stopped from doing their job. Besides that, what we usually say that if you stop journalists from doing their job, basically that's you are doing an injustice to your country. Because if journalists do not bring out the issues and whatever is going out there, then as a country we are going to lose. Because journalists are supposed to go out there and bring information and inform the public. But if we want to bring the sense of information darkness, then it means that as a country we are going to lose. So it's not acceptable. And remember, just a day before, actually the same day that the Maandamano were called off by Azimio, we had issued a warning that we were going to monitor, that was on a Sunday, that we are going to monitor the situation on a Monday, and if the journalists will be attacked again, then of course even us will also protest. And actually I had even given a day where we are going to mobilize journalists and media practitioners across the country to protest against attack and violence against journalists, so that we can be given safe space to work. Because when we have Maandamano and there is violence, it's upon police and even those who are demonstrating to create safe corridors for journalists to do their work. Because that is even what happens, even in the place of war, if there is war and there are parties fighting from both sides, but they usually create safe corridor for journalists to operate, whereby they are able to inform the whole world or the country what is going on. But what we saw actually those 2 weeks, actually the last days of Maandamano, actually that was unprecedented because these were targeted attacks, because police officers and even the supporters of our opposition who are protesting, they were going to where journalists were. They were targeted attacks, and in the post-independence Kenya, we never seen that. And so that's what we said when we had a press conference as media stakeholders. We said that everybody must be called out and everybody must account for his action. And we said, number one, we will go for the police. Number two, we will also boycott some of the activities of the government if the government will continue to tolerate security officers who are attacking journalists. Yeah.
Just at the back of that, then, let's talk about the rights of journalists in this country.
Yes, journalists have got the right just like any other worker. First of all, look at it as workers. So journalists have got the right to decent work, whereby they have work that is sustainable, work whereby if you wake up in the morning, you are not so scared that when I get to where I report, I'll get a notice there that I've been fired. Work where at the end of the month, you are supposed to be paid salary that actually can take care of your bills. Work that has got social protection. Remember earlier on we talked about social protection programs. Work that actually has got pension, that when you retire honorably, gracefully, that because you are saving. Work that if you go there, if you are sick or if your loved ones are sick, especially your spouse or your children are sick, you're able to take them to hospital and the bill paid for by the medical insurance scheme that you have at the company. So looking at it that as workers, journalists have got those rights just like any other workers who enjoy the rights that are there for workers. Number two, journalists also work in a very sensitive environment, work in a very sensitive sector, whereby besides serving your employer, you're also serving the nation, because that when you go out there to look for information, you are serving the nation. And that's why if you look at the statement that has been was issued by my colleague David Omoyo, he is saying that if we attack journalists, then we are attacking democracy, and if you are attacking democracy of a country, then you are gambling with the lives of people in that country. So besides serving the employer as a worker, you also serving the nation, ensuring that we've got a stable, we've got a peaceful country, we have a country that is informed, we have a citizen that is educated, a citizen that is entertained. If you look at all those roles that journalists actually are expected to do. You also set the agenda for the nation. You help the nation to think. You help the nation to come up with better ideas, better policies to manage the country. So in so doing, it means that journalists are supposed to enjoy the right of having safe environment. And also another right, you just like any other worker, you've got a right to join, participate in activities and programs for trade unions so that you're also protected. So journalists are also Kenyans, and that's what I was saying the other day, that if you attack journalists, you're also attacking just a Kenyan. They're also human beings. They feel pain. If you are slapping them, kicking them right, left, and center, they also feel pain like any other human being. So journalists also deserve a decent work environment, be it within the premises, like right now within standard group premises. You deserve the same outside when you are going out to the field, so that it doesn't work that when you go out there, then you are subjected to violence, that you are unable to do your work, like what we saw in the protests. So we are expecting, like we know, and because we've read that, we are likely to have protests resuming next week. So when they resume, we are expecting to see things different. We are expecting to see safe corridors established for journalists when they are covering the protests.
What about some of the challenges you've noted over time that journalists are facing, challenges or issues that you've seen journalists are facing in the profession?
Yes, journalists actually they face a lot of challenges, and sometimes we argue that sometimes we have the power of the pen, the camera, and the mic, but we hardly talk about our issues. So issue number one, journalists are just like other workers. We are suffering from the issues of contracts. There are so many journalists working in different media houses who do not have contracts. Some of them can't even remember the last time they were paid. I've always said that sometimes they are journalists, sometimes they are hired through a phone call, they are paid through a mobile money transfer, then they are fired through an SMS. So those are some of the challenges that we've seen journalists are also working with. But of course, we've also had digital disruption that also requires that journalists again have to go back to school, upgrade their skills, and also do a reskilling so that they're able to adapt to the changing environment. So those are the challenges that journalism is a fast-moving profession, that it also requires journalists also to be fast in whatever they are doing, actually to increase their pace, so that they are always ahead of the technology, so that when the technology comes, it doesn't actually go away with their jobs, like what we've seen. Actually, what we are currently experiencing right now, that probably we did not act fast enough to ensure that we are ahead of the technology, so that some of our jobs can be saved, because right now job security in the media sector is not guaranteed. That, like I said, that we also deserve a decent job, so that when you report where you are supposed to reporting in the newsroom, you don't go there feeling insecure that maybe when you see your boss walking around with a brown envelope or a white envelope, you just start you're thinking that that envelope is being delivered to me because my last day at this company has finally come. So those are some of the challenges that right now the media sector, it is not stable. It is not stable because of technology disruption. You've got shrinking revenue, that of course when the revenues shrink, then that also has got an effect on jobs, because what happens is that when the company is experiencing some cash flow problems, the first casualty is surely the journalist. So those are some of the challenges areas. Of course, out there, the government is also not happy, because the government also will always want to have that push and pull with the media and ensure that they control. And we also see some of the policies, some of the laws that are enacted are geared towards ensuring that they control what the journalists are doing. So those are some of the challenges that we are having as journalists.
Of course, this digital disruption is one of them, like you're talking about. But let's now talk about what KUJ does to protect the rights of journalists.
Yes, KUJ, like I said from the beginning, the basic role of a union, without looking at anything, you make sure that you do collective bargaining agreement for your members. So we do collective bargaining agreement for our members. Here standard, we have a collective bargaining agreement between KUJ and the standard group. We have that with other companies, just to ensure that we improve terms and conditions of work for our members. Two, we've got the role of advocacy, just to ensure that we advocate for the rights of journalists, because now we are operating in a bigger space, not only for the members, but also for journalists who are operating in this country so that they are able to work in an environment that actually is conducive. Number three, we offer legal protection to journalists. At the moment, KUJ is offering free legal service to any journalist who is facing these challenges in court. We've helped journalists, presented them in court at no cost, at our cost, because we are partnering with other partners just to ensure that no journalist should be jailed because the journalist could not able to access the legal fee or legal support or legal aid. So we are doing that. Also, we lobby, because unions are supposed to lobby the government when the policies are being enacted. And we've done that. We lobbied very well when the Media Council Act was being developed and to eventual enactment in 2013. When we are not happy with some of the sections, we end up in court and we got a redressal. Also to ensure that we have the environment where all of us feel safe. We lobby policy enactment so that we have policies that can help the industry. And also just to engage different stakeholders within the media industry, just to have time also to discuss some of these issues, because if we do not create that platform like what we do, like I said, that when we issued some warning there that is not going to business as usual. KUJ, of course, provided the platform, invited other media stakeholders in Manzoni. We sat down, discussed all the challenges, agreed that these are the challenges, yes, but are we just going to whine and lament? No. We must also come up with the proposals on how we can address these challenges. And also we were able to come up with both proposals that are inwards looking and outwards looking, so that we are able to collectively support and protect the rights of journalists.
Right. Away from journalists now, how is the welfare or even KOTU, safeguarding rights of other workers?
Yes, KOTU, like I said, is an umbrella body. That's a central organization of all trade unions in the country. So what we do, number one, we operate locally, whereby you are able to engage the government, you are able to engage the employers, so that we come up with the laws and the policy. I say that if you look at some of the labor laws that we have in this country, looking at the Employment Act, Labor Relations Act, Work Injury Benefit Act, Occupational Safety and Safety Act, Labor Institutions Act, all these 5 laws are actually very important because they have helped us to consolidate and have a better working environment in the country. And the KOTU in that sense engages the employers through the Kenya Federation of Employers and the government through the Ministry of Labor. They sit down, the 3 parties, where KOTU is there, FKE is there, Ministry of Labor is there. They sit down, they do the look at what is happening in the country in terms of labor movement. They make decisions, and these decisions are actually enacted in place of policies. KOTU was sat in the meetings where NSSF laws were being reviewed, just to make sure that we continue to protect the rights of workers and ensure that more contributions are made. KOTU was there in the NHIF when he was being transformed into a health insurance scheme, just to ensure that the aspects and the interests of workers are also taken into consideration when these laws are being enacted. And also comes with the policy. We have got social protection policies here, whereby KOTU also brings in an input that if we are coming up with this policy, this is what workers will want addressed. So that is the role of KOTU. And also, of course, KOTU also bringing together, I said we've got about 45 trade unions that coalesce around KOTU. So bringing together all these unions also brings some kind of unity and solidarity, so that when you say that Kenyan workers are supporting or against anything, then you have got the support of all the unions. And that is the work of KOTU, to bring together all these unions to speak with one voice and to push a common agenda, which is usually the rights and the privileges workers are supposed to enjoy.
Right. Then how can an employer like government appreciate labor movements then in that case?
Yes, of course, the government, is also an employer, and also a very big, actually one of the biggest employer, if I may say that, because we've got so many workers who are in the civil service. So the government actually also engages KOTU through affiliates, because if you are talking about civil servants, they have their union. Talk about employees working in the county governments, they are members of a county government workers union. If you are talking about employees who are working in energy sector, they are members of KETAU. If you're talking about employees working in health sector. We've got doctors union, we've got nurses union, we've got clinical officers union. So all these engage the government based on their interests, because these sectors have got different interests. So that when they were engaging, like for me, I engage the government through Kenya Broadcasting Corporation, who are members of KUJ. Right. So I sit down with Kenya Broadcasting Corporation and we look at issues that are affecting journalists within the public service. So that is how it happens. The government as an employer, through different organizations that form the government, they also engage unions at different sectors. Because I said unions in Kenya, they are formed and organized at sector level. So that means that every sector, you are supposed to engage the parastatal that is in that sector or government agency that is in that sector, so that you are able to look into the interest and the rights of workers in that sector. Yeah.
Finally, can there be peaceful industrial action in Kenya, or is there a peaceful industrial action in the country?
Of course, when we are calling for industrial action, it's actually very peaceful. We do not want to destroy properties. We do not want to cause the loss of lives of Kenyans. What we are doing is that when industrial action has been called, is supposed to send a message that enough is enough. We have to look for an alternative avenue to air our grievances. But when industrial action is called, it's not called to cause some kind of damage by destroying property, burning property. No. What we do is we call it has to be peaceful, and we usually encourage members to be peaceful, and whenever they are on strike, make sure that they do not destroy any property.
If they're not peaceful, is there any action you take then in that case?
I haven't seen cases whereby we've got such cases of where members of unions actually have destroyed property. We usually try as much as possible, because that's in our criminal offense, and we usually try as much as possible that before a strike commences, we read all these rules to members, so that they know that if you are going on a strike, this is what you're supposed to do, and this is what you're supposed to do, so that you do not find yourself in the wrong side of the law. Yeah.
Maybe for the audience that's just joining us right now, maybe again tell us about the Labor Day celebrations this year, when it's happening, where it's happening, and who we're expecting to be at that event.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Labor Day will be on the 1st of May. I think it will be on a Monday, and we will be having a national event at Uhuru Gardens, and like I said earlier also, we had extended invitation to President William Ruto to be the chief guest, because this is the first Labor Day after election last year, so we're expecting that this is the only opportunity that he can have to engage and also stipulate some of the policies that he's going to push as a Kenya Kwanza government to protect the rights of workers, and also economic policies, because work is labor is a very important component of economy, and therefore we are going to see how the two are going to intersect. And also the workers also will get the opportunity to showcase, tell the president through procession that we usually have in union, we call them the floats, whereby we'll have the companies passing there to showcase some of the things that they do, some of the services that they offer, like even Standard Group. Yesterday I was having a conversation with Standard Group, and they have agreed that we will be mobilizing Standard Group to go there and showcase this is what we do as Standard Group and other media houses. So those are some of the things that we expect on that day.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. That is Eric Oduor. He's the General Secretary of Kenya Union of Journalists. Thank you for making time.
Okay, it's always my pleasure to discuss the issues of workers and also journalists.
Right.
Yes.
Thank you for that. Okay, so we are taking a short commercial break here on News Center. We'll be back with more. Don't go too far.